Welcome to the Ignited Recovery Podcast, a new way forward for anyone looking for answers but feeling left out. If you've been searching for empowerment, triumph, and purpose, you've found them right here. You won't hear the same solutions, and you're not going to have any excuses to fall back on, because Ignited Recovery allows heroes to rise and become their best selves. I'm Dr. Adi Jaffe, and I can't wait to be your guide on this journey. Are you ready to become an ignited hero? You know, we dedicate this time to the work that we do, and yet life goes on, right? It keeps moving, and so there are things happening on the outside. Just breathing in the space, being present can really, really help us to show up as our best to this hour. Meditation or mindfulness is not limited to those opportunities, this kind of sitting down meditation that we know and have heard so much about and maybe have seen in our friends' family or movies or whatever. Today has been a really stressful day. I tell people all the time, you can do mindfulness in anything you do. Mindfulness, as defined by some of the experts in the field, is being present for a specific amount of time and putting your focus on what you're doing. And they say with no judgment, my change to that is with as little judgment as possible. Sometimes it's hard to not be judgmental at all, but if you can help reduce that, then it really, really helps. And so, for instance, today, making coffee in the morning, I make pour over coffee, and for at least 45 seconds while I'm pouring the water, I'm trying to put all my focus on the water and where it is that I'm pouring it, right? Really just bringing attention to the present moment. It's only a minute maybe that I can hold it, but that's a minute that I'm not worried about what's going on around me. I'm really becoming centered. Another one that I love is a walking meditation, being mindful while walking. And one of the easiest techniques that I know to incorporate is if you focus on counting your steps from where you're going to where you're going to end up, it allows you to be present. Now, I said as little judgment as possible. You're going to lose count. It happens. Something's going to happen. Somebody's going to talk to you. A noise is going to come up. A thought is going to occur. And you lose count, or you'll even forget that you were supposed to be counting your steps. It's okay. All we do is we go, oh, I was supposed to be counting my steps. And we look back down and we do the same thing again. It's an incredible tool to help us really get centered. Okay. I'm going to jump into the little 15, 20-minute thing. I know we've had a few moments, so I'll try to keep it short today so we can jump into the Q&As. But with everything that's going on in the world, I think it becomes even more important to be centered. One of my clients was telling me that she's feeling overwhelmed because she felt like she can't save the world. She felt like she can't do everything that she needs to do, everything that'll make the world a better place. And I related, right? We all, and it doesn't even matter which side of any of the arguments or any of the theories or any of anything you fall on. I think we all deep inside want to make the world better. We just might have different ideas of how to get there. And sometimes I'm afraid that we get so caught up in the wishing that it were different that we forget to appreciate the process that we end up going down. But there's little comfort in future planning or looking back. Every once in a while we can get nostalgic. Every once in a while we can have hope for the future. But even hope and nostalgia are not exactly comfort, right? And in times of stress, in times of overwhelm, we need to get centered. We have to be able to find a way to get centered, because even to carry through with the action for the future hope, even the ability to really connect to the nostalgia and feel good about what we've been through, it oftentimes requires us to just have this sense of calm about us. There's so much being brought up, and Sophie and I were recording an intro for one of our podcast episodes, so we obviously talked about this a lot. But this month was supposed to be our fuck shame month for the podcast, and I've always looked at fuck shame from the, hey, you're shaming me, and I'm going to take back my power and fight the shame. But that's the way we've talked about it quite a bit. As addicts and alcoholics, those names that people give us, there's shame, there's stigma attached to that then creates shame. And we have to fight it. That's why I wear the bracelet. It's why when somebody tries to make me feel badly about who I am or choices I've made, that's why I wear the bracelet, is I have to kind of remember, oh, wait, this isn't about shame. I can always get better, right? I can always do the work to make myself a better person. That doesn't mean that there's something wrong with me. I hope that makes sense, the distinction between those two, right? Always room for improvement. That is very different than saying that I'm a damaged, broken human being. So fuck shame always came from that side. Fuck you, you're shaming me, and I'm going to fight back. But this week, it took on a different meaning for me as well. And that is, even us, even all of us here in our disempowered states to some extent, sometimes we find ourselves either shaming other people or accepting other people who shame others. Either way. And when I was recording this podcast episode with Sophie, it dawned on me that, F shame comes from that side as well. Right? The side where, hey, if I get to recognize the impact shame has on me, when somebody shames me, it destroys me. It makes me run for the hills. It makes me want to hide. It makes me want to be less of a person. It makes me sometimes literally not want to live. Like, we all know that. There's not a single person on this call right now who doesn't know what that feels like. And if we know that that's true, it stands to reason that people who we either make shamed ourselves or allow to be made shamed have the exact same reaction. And so there becomes like an active, and I'm talking far beyond race right now, but the big thing that's coming up here for us in the US is right now is race, and there's a reason for it. But this is where the not speaking up piece of the puzzle comes in. And one of the questions for this week in particular was about finding purpose. How do I find purpose? And I think oftentimes some of the people that I've seen who found purpose, oftentimes it does have, other people have a role in it. I'm not going to say I've never seen anybody find purpose that does not involve helping other people. It happens, but oftentimes it has to do with a community, and it has to do with giving back, right? There's like this reciprocal relationship. And so now it kind of gave me this. I mean, obviously I've been evangelizing F shame myself, but I've been kind of very focused within a niche on that. So F shame, really, addiction and body image are the two places where F shame really has seemed to take off, if you kind of look online and hashtags and things like that. But I really believe in the power of shame, and I believe that it's playing a role in all of these fights that we're having. Right? I don't remember who I was talking to. I was thinking Sophie was in it, my wife, but there was somebody else involved. And I said, look, at the end, these conversations always come down to the fact that the people who are stigmatizing feel like they're inherently better than the people who are being stigmatized. I mean, if we're really basic about it, that's kind of what it comes down to. I'm better than you, therefore I have power over you. And I should. It's ordained. Now, when we talk about alcoholics, and I have to put in air quotes because you got who've been around for a while know I hate those terms, but I'm using it because that's what we get to hear all the time. When it comes to addicts and alcoholics, let's be honest about it. We've accepted that for a long time. I am damaged. There is something wrong with me. I am a piece of you know what. And those of you who've worked through the program for a while know that that's a big piece of what we fight internally. How do I at least get to the point where I believe I'm worthy? Because if I can't, there's no way I'm going to persuade anybody else that they are. And the point I want to make is what if we can take that fight to every other group that's marginalized and say, look, there is nothing wrong with you. There is nothing inherently wrong with you, period, point blank. Like, I don't have to like you. I don't have to relate to you. None of that has to be in place, right? It just, I don't get to stigmatize and shame you because you're different or I don't understand you. And I think that's to me where I really see the rubber meets the road for me personally. Is it's easy for me, like, let's just be honest, it's easy for me to focus on addiction. I beat that shame. So I find little moments or little crevices of when it still rears its head, and then I can help you guys come up because I can pull you up this hill, this mountain that I've climbed. But what came front and center to me over the last few weeks is there are a lot of groups that haven't had that experience yet. As groups, I would argue probably alcoholism and addiction in general is going through that to some extent as well. But that's a group of a few million people. There are hundreds of millions of people, maybe a few billions of people that are struggling with systemic shaming and stigmatization. So I wonder if, at least for the short little present moment, as I share kind of our struggles, if we can allow ourselves to look at those, and I think actually, if we do that, if we can extend from our own feelings of shame around our problems, around our food or addiction or alcohol or weed or whatever it is, porn, drug, whatever it is for you, if we can extend and recognize that it's actually just the human experience of being shamed and stigmatized and pigeonholed and boxed, then it creates a much bigger, more empathetic experience. And it empowers us, even in our stigmatized place, even in a box, even as people look down at us, to go, well, fuck them. I don't have, like the Eleanor Roosevelt quote, I don't have to give them that power. And I don't have to feel disempowered to help other people just because there are people out there who see me as less. I think there's a lot of room for those of us who have felt powerless for a long time to recognize that we have to allow that powerlessness to occur, right? Nobody can really truly take our own self-concept away from us. And if we understand that, then we have a job of not letting anybody else have that experience as well. I think part of the condition that we've been placed in for so long is that people have made us feel like we don't get it. But we do. Some of us actually get it maybe too well. We've gotten it so well for so many years that we've tried to make sure everybody else doesn't have to worry too much about how much we get it, how much we've lied, how much we've screwed up, how much we've messed up. So we try to keep pretending like it's all good. Doesn't matter. That person made me mad. It's okay. I'll just eat it. I don't really feel comfortable with this group of people, but that's okay. I'll just eat it because, it's okay. I don't want to bother anybody else. Or my husband is being an asshole, but I'll just figure out how to deal with it. My wife is being annoying. We just kind of eaten it over and over and over for so many years. And we just try to control it all ourselves. And when it doesn't work, we beat ourselves up because the expectation has been, and as I'm learning over and over these last 4 or 5 years, especially, we've been actually so good, or we were early on, we were so good at hiding it because we found these little coping strategies to deal with some pretty intense crap half the time that everybody else early in life oftentimes saw us as the one that nothing can rattle. Oh, they're good. Don't worry about them. And then the wheels came off because we were never good. We were never good. We just pretended for so long. So here's the thing about nailing it. I'm talking to the family SOS participants about the same thing, because if our loved ones are on the road with us, it makes this a million times easier, because to really create massive change, biology, psychology, environment, and spirituality, right? Biology, at least we have some control over. Stress, medications, nutrition, exercise. Environment, who's around you, your work environment, colleagues, physical environment, noise, stress, all that stuff. Psychology, past experiences of trauma, current relationships, all those things, and early attachment styles, right? All those things make a huge difference in how you react right now. And then spirituality, and that's one of the questions for this week, is around purpose and being connected to something bigger. We started out talking about that. We're going to talk about it more here in a minute. When you look at those four factors, biology, psychology, environment, and spirituality, you will identify places where you need to make a difference. There's something called the fundamental attribution error. When we look at our own actions, we see the circumstances. When we look at other people's actions, we believe it's their personality. I think in addiction it gets warped, but I'll explain how it starts. If you're ever in a hurry to go to a hospital, you're late to work or to a meeting or whatever, you're in a real hurry. You may be driving a little erratically. You may cut people off. You may honk to get people out of your way. I'm driving erratically because my wife is about to have a baby. I got to get to the hospital. If you're driving calmly and you're just having a good day, you're looking out the window, listening to music, and everything is fine, and somebody cuts you off there, and asshole. I'm driving erratically because I'm in a hurry. He's driving erratically because he's an asshole. I understand my own circumstances. I believe other people do what they do because of their circumstances. Now, here's the weird thing that happens in addiction. You've been told for so long that the reason you do what you do is because of who you are. We started buying into it. We started not understanding the circumstances. So we're actually creating this falsehood on ourselves. All you have to do is put one foot in front of the other. So in the hero code, we have first, identify a place you want to go to, see a goal, recognize that there's a way out of this situation for you. Number one, have that belief, like internalize it on such a deep level that you can't let it go. There is some solution for me. I don't know what it is yet, but it's there. Then find your troops, identify where you're trying to go, get your tribe, start picking out the tools. Some people are good archers, other people are good with a saw and a hammer, and they're going to help us build the cabins. Everybody needs their tools. Everybody's good at different things. It's okay. That's why we have a lot of tools. Find the tools that work for you. Create your real tight-knit support group. And if you do those things, little step by step, you're going to see, and you can ask here in the group, go on the Facebook group and ask there. Things will change. Things you didn't even know you wanted to change when you first joined will change. And they'll change. Initially, it'll seem slowly, and then there'll be a moment where you look back and you go, oh my God, I used to struggle with this all the time. Whenever I would come home, I would have these anxieties. I haven't had them in a while. That's so strange. Right? Nailing it is a longer term process than you want it to be. I apologize. It's going to be. But what you will get instead is you will get incremental growth, what I call the 1% principle. You will get incremental growth that will shock you. How many people here, I'm going to put this on the group thing again. How many people here have been long enough to have one of those experiences where you're like, oh, I'm having thoughts and worries I didn't even know I would get to have because I'm not worried about the things that were freaking me out every moment, every day. It's not that life turns out to be perfect when you get this right. That's not it. It's just that you get to have that stuff you heard about, like normal people concerns, you know? And for some of us, that means, how do I talk to my parents differently? And who takes the kids to school? Or, I need to make more money, whatever, like, regular people stuff. What we learn to recognize pretty quickly is when we identify the belief in ourselves and we get strong internally, that's where the nailing it comes from. So I hope that made sense. I think it'll make more sense as you go through it. It's part of the reason somebody got mad at me because we drip out the content for you guys. It's one of the reasons why I don't give you all like 30 hours of video right off the bat. I think some of us would just rush through it. We'd just be like, okay, I'm done. I finished. I'm good. But that's just not how life works. So, there was I saw a social media post from somebody. Who was it? Mel Robbins, I think, who did a whole talk on finding purpose and how oversimplified it can be. People early on in the process are like, fuck purpose. I'm not forget purpose. I just want to wake up in the morning and not hate myself. Once I find that, I'll get back to you about purpose. Purpose is a good thing to worry about. So first of all, for those of you who are in the first place, let me tell you that doing this to the best of your ability could be your purpose for right now. Your purpose doesn't have to stay the same throughout life. I would argue it doesn't. When I started out, my purpose was to find out why I became addicted. And then that parlayed into helping other people who've been through what I've been through. And initially that was through writing and research. And then my purpose became to help people in a more individual way. And now I want to help 1 million people. If you would have talked to the version of me 18 years ago, 19 years ago, getting out of jail, the idea that my purpose was one day going to be to help 1 million people beat addiction would have been laughable, right? That wouldn't have been on my radar. So don't worry about how do I find my ultimate purpose. Just worry about the purpose that will connect you right now. So I think that's the number one thing. And if you don't have one and you're worried, really, like you're still in the place where you're worried about how are you going to feel okay tomorrow, if it's still in that place, then make that the purpose. Make the purpose like, I'm going to identify the things that will help me not wake up in that place, right? That's okay to have a purpose that is that clearly defined. The second piece before we bring you on that I want to mention is that spirituality piece. I specifically don't look at spirituality as religion associated, by the way. And I don't mean that in the, you can make anything, including the doorknob, your higher power, which I always hated. It's like the doorknob is not my higher power. But I am talking about it in a different way. And you already mentioned it, so I'll start there. There's something bigger. I don't care if it's the universe. I don't care if it's science. I don't care if it's the sun, whatever it is you want to identify as, that there's something bigger. But as soon as we understand that there's something bigger than us, then we are a part of a system. And for me, and my purpose came out of this as well, recognizing that I'm a small part in a large system allowed me to go, oh, well, how can I make that system better? And then I was all of a sudden not focusing on myself so much because the focus was on how do I make everything around me better. And by doing that, I will improve. And so I also come from a very secular house, have a really deeply ingrained problem with organized religion. But that's how I found my ability to connect to something bigger than myself. It actually happened on a jog as I was running past a school full of kids, and they were all out on their recess. Remember those days when kids actually went to school and got to play outside? And I remember I looked at those kids and something dawned on me and I said, oh my God, there's like 300-400 kids in this school. That's something bigger than me, right? There's 300-400 lives and families and impact that is going to come out of this school. And I had no problem in a second it associated. So whatever it is for you that you can associate is a piece of the puzzle. Bruce Lipton, in this book, The Biology of Belief, he talks about how we're so comfortable with the idea that we interact with the world, with the material world, right? Like I'm holding something in my hand, so it's real. Hormones are a real thing, right? Why? Because it's a physical thing that's supposed to connect to another physical thing. We can understand that. Neurotransmitters, neurons in our brain, body parts, those all make sense because they're physical. And he says we have a really hard problem with the idea that we're also affected by energy. That's a very woo-woo concept. My wife is a huge supporter of the concept that we're affected by energy, right? Different people's energy, and she talks about vibrations and all that stuff. It hits me in a very weird way. I'll just have to be very frank about that. But he says, look, we know that our bodies are affected by energy. There's no question there. For instance, how many people here can see me right now? Well, the way you can see me is because light energy is hitting receptors in your body, that light energy is hitting receptors in your eye that are programmed to process that energy. We've called it photons, but nobody's like there's no material photon. Photons behave half like a material, half like waves. And your eye perceives that energy, translates it into something electrical energy, actually, that your brain can read, and then you see. So light energy, we're okay with. But there's also sound energy. You can hear me. We're okay with that energy. How about the fact that these phones that we take for granted run off of EMF, right? That's electrical energy and radio energy, and there's infrared energy and ultraviolet energy. There's all this energy around us that's how we tan. You tan through energy, right? There's no like you're not being sprayed with a tanning spray that is making you tan. You tan because there's light energy, UV rays that hit your skin and your skin reacts. So what he talks about is we understand that actually we do interact with a lot of different energy in the world. And then he asks this question. He says, why is it so hard to believe that there's energy that we don't have physical manifestation of in such a clear sense? We don't tan from it, or you don't hear it, or you can't, your brain can't create an image out of it, but it hits your body, it's in your surroundings, and you are affected by it. And when he asked that question, I was like, oh shit. Because it actually wasn't a question in that moment. I actually guarantee that there's energy around me. People talk about dark matter, right? There's all this stuff that we know, solar flares. There is energy around me that I don't see. Reception for my phone, light energy for my my computer, all these things. And so when you ask about purpose and spirituality, what if we just expand the conversation? So you don't have to necessarily understand what it is. It's not like you have to name it. You don't have to. I think religion tries to do that. Religion tries to say to you, here are the rules of the spirituality you are guided by. Here are the rules of the energy you are supposed to allow into your life. Does that make sense? What I'm saying is there's a space to say, oh, I'm affected by powers, by forces outside of my control that I have a hard time understanding, but I know they impact me. I feel it. And allowing that feeling and that notion, that internal voice to guide you, even if, and as a scientist, it's really hard for me to say, even if we don't exactly know what it is and how to explain it. There is greatness, not safety, not mediocrity, not low level contentness. I'm talking like when you do that, when you tune into that intuition and you go all in and you say, you know what, look, I don't need everybody to like me. I get bitched out on a daily basis. I get called an asshole on a daily basis by dozens of people. That used to bother the hell out of me. And now it doesn't, because I don't care. I'm not here to serve them. I'm here for a different group of people, and that's okay. So when you tune into you, there will be people that you used to appease and you stop listening to the intuition. And so you got used to things that you didn't really tolerate. I get it. And those things will have to leave if you're really going to be the best version of yourself. You're going to mind it at first, but it's going to contribute to your growth because the full version of you is incredible. We just have to allow it to actually come out. Thank you for tuning in to the Ignited Heroes Recovery Podcast. I really hope you found the information here useful and that we'll see you back here next week. And look, I want to make sure that this podcast is the most useful it can be for you, so please let me know by emailing info@ignited.com if there are any specific topics or questions you'd like to have addressed. As usual, if you like this episode, I would love for you to leave us a 5-star review and rating. Thanks, and see you next week.